One unique thing about the modular is happy accidents. I don't get that anywhere else. And the modular is a living organism because it's current running out and in, and you can get zzz if you touch stuff and you feel it's alive.
Hello and welcome to The Sound Test Room. My name is Jakob. I'm your host and you're about to watch an interview with Max Sokoleski on modulars and modular workflow. I cannot even begin to emphasize how much Max loves modulars and what it means to him, so I'll just let him do that. But before we get into things, I wanted to open up with this picture right here. This is a modular and it is absolutely awesome. Max is a sound designer and producer. He grew up in a small town called Lidköping down in Västra Götaland. It's actually not far away from where I grew up myself. He now lives and works in Stockholm, and so I asked him why choose Stockholm, and he answered,
Well, I'm living in Stockholm now since '95, so that's quite a bit of years back. And it feels like everybody's here. So everything is an arm length distance for musicians, for collaborators, for ideas, for movie makers and YouTubers and whatnot. So I really love Stockholm nowadays.
Now, I was dying to know what inspired Max to actually start making sounds. What was it that made him fall in love with producing music?
ZX Spectrum is an old computer with rubbery. A friend of mine had one and I got to try it, and you could actually make it speak. And that was fascinating. It was like a voice emulating thing. I think it was called Courage speech. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it was so, you could actually hook up a box and get it to say stuff, and you had to write it in a special way because otherwise it wouldn't sound good. But there it happened. I got so thrilled by computers, electronics and sound, and electronic sound, and how you could manipulate that. And yeah, that ignited everything.
One thing that really struck me was this guy really knows his modulars.
Well, I'm terribly in love with my modular synthesizer because the possibilities are infinite. I mean, literally infinite. And one unique thing about the modular is happy accidents. I don't get that anywhere else. What happens if I take this cable and poke it into this slot? Wow, I didn't expect this to happen. And the modular is a living organism because it's current running out and in, and you can get zzz if you touch stuff and you feel it's alive. Hours and hours on end easily get lost there because you have an idea at best where you're headed, and you'll end up somewhere completely different or in the vicinity, but it's unpredictable, and that's the beauty of it actually.
Everything in Max's modular-based studio has a purpose.
Most of my studio is a big effect processor, so everything, instruments, vocals, obviously, beats, everything get processed through the modular. And there it starts to live and starts to sparkle, and it gets filtered and it gets processed with different sides. One side gets one effect, one other side gets another. So you get weird stereo movements, which is never exactly the same. So when you process it, the sound, even if it's a static sound, it will never turn out static in the end. I've been trying to condense it because it's easy to go bananas with it. I've tried to keep it as optimized. Things I don't use, things I don't reach for, I as soon as possible get rid of and make a whole, so it's get refined, and I'm at a point now where I think it's pretty much optimized. So I'm gonna let it rest. I told a friend I'm actually gonna weld it together now so nothing comes out. Maybe don't do that, but yeah, I'm gonna stick there, yes.
Max uses a strict system. It's all about easy access and not having to reach around wondering what knobs to grab.
And there's my pride and joy, the modular, and yeah, I got some holes to fill. And most of it is connected into the patch bay here in front. Big screen when I use that, but usually, like I said, everything goes into this little bugger here. The modular goes into the compressor into the space, the timeline, the H9, and the last one is actually this mastering unit from TC Electronics, which I also use when I'm out playing live, and that's the last frontier before it gets digitized. Like 90% of the time I'm turned that way. So this is speakers here and 2 pairs of speakers to hear how it sounds, and also not to drive my neighbors crazy. So I have a small set of speakers which I use sometimes. I mean, the studio is what, 6 square meters, and it contains a modular, a studio, and also a vocal booth. Incredible how much you can fit in small space if you optimize the space. I've been here and fiddling with it and moving things and arranging things. That's, while I think what to do, I plan. I plan on how can I optimize my workflow, my ergonomics. The idea I want, it's kind of have to be reachable in an instant, immediately. So that's a huge part of the meditation. Now I'm planning, and maybe I should get rid of one of the courses. It's not getting used, then it shouldn't be here. Because if it's not getting used, it takes energy to have it here, and it's distracting. And distractions is counterproductive. And I color-coded stuff, so there's less thinking involved. All the green ones have to do with gain, input gain, output gain. All the yellow ones, and that goes for the modular, everything else, have to do with cutoff, with filters. All the red ones have to do with resonance. So that goes throughout my whole studio, the same color coding. And that makes it easy when you're in a state of trance, what to grip. There's a set chain through which everything goes, and at the beginning of that chain is the modular, and at the end is the handy recorder, a little field recorder. It's always connected, so there's no hurdle for recording. Whatever's going on, I just turn around, I even know where it's at, press the rec button and just let it roll.
Of course, I had to find out what he actually does with all the sound he produces with that modular system.
So what I do with that ends up on a little SD chip on my laptop, clonk into the side, my MacBook. Processing continues in there. So I open it up in Ableton and see what I need to cut out, what's useful, what's not. It's not polite. Sometimes the sounds are sticky and hard and it's screeching. I told you the modular is unpredictable sometimes. It starts to shout and scream. The sweet spots can be very tiny, but you want to capture those small areas when it happens. So that's why it's usually on record. But after that, I automate volume if it's very loud, curves coming out. I EQ. I often use dynamic EQ. So sound only gets EQ'd when it's loud in certain points. That gets me a lot more consistent sounds to work with. And I cut it out and then I normalize it, re-render it, and deliver it to my music collaborators.
Wait, what's that doing here?
It's a placeholder. That's what it is. It's a placeholder for a Volca FM. And I realized that VHS cassette is the exact same size as a Volca. So that's keeping space for when the Volca arrives. I'm looking forward to that. So I'm reading all the manuals, listening to all the sound examples, getting to know it before it arrives. So when we actually meet, it's just going to be, hey, I've known you, I just haven't seen you. Finally we get to meet.
Now, Max also uses an iPad in his modular studio, and it made me wonder, how does it fit into all that modular madness?
The sole purpose of my iPad is an audio unit. So sometimes I process sound, sometimes I generate sound with it. Beats, there's so many good drum machines in there. Seek Beats, for example, is amazing. It's a lot of vocals going through there for vocoder effects, for chorus effects, or for just plain craziness. Synth's iVoxel is the primary one I use. But flux effects I use a lot. That's not a vocal effect per se, but they got some crazy stuff in there that I enjoy a lot. iPhone Electribe I use a lot as a source, and then I put a couple of 3-4 plugins afterwards, inter-app audio plugins, and after that they go into the modular. So I prepare the sound as much as possible, because the modular likes consistent levels. aum is also fantastic. That's my go-to when I process sound, because it can do anything. That's actually a fantasy I had, that somebody would come up with something like this, and Jonathan did. Thank you, Jonathan, for mind reading. So, and you can save these setups, so you don't have to invent the wheel every time you find a good processing chain you want to use and reuse.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Max. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me so that I could share it with everyone else. Now, if you want to find out more about Max and his music, then I suggest you go check out the description box under this video. I always put lots of links there, and there's links to Max's music that you can go check out for yourself. As usual, Doug Woods, Colin Sweeney, and me, Jakob at soundtestroom.com, wishes you a very productive week. Now go finger your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.